when it comes to creating content online, like really having that confidence. And even for me, when I first started, I was scared. And the reason is because when you're showing up on video, even if you're showing up live, people can see you. And it's much easier if we're sending an email or just doing a blog. But having people see you, seeing your imperfections, seeing your flaws, it can be nerve wracking. And a lot of us are afraid to embarrass ourselves. We're also afraid that someone's going to say something rude or nasty to us.
Welcome back to Making Sales Social. I'm Bryn Tillman, and I am so excited to be here with Shamara Starcox, who is a TV producer and business content coach. She really focuses on marketing and media solutions for experienced coaches and consultants ready to grow. We are going to do a deep dive into video content and other content that really works. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, it's such a pleasure. I'm like really excited about this conversation.
I am too. So we had a conversation and immediately I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to know more about this, but let's capture it for the podcast. So I am very, very excited. So before we jump into your expertise, we ask all of our guests, what does making sales social mean to you?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. And that's something that I honestly would say when I started my business is when I actually started to understand it. It really is being able to connect with people online and to serve them at the highest capacity in order to help them get a transformation. And of course, because you are serving, you're going to be able to make money off of that. But really serving at the highest capacity so that you can really serve your audience and then be able to make sales from that.
That's great. Yeah, that's how you earn the right to get those sales, right? To really serve. So I think that's a fabulous answer. I love that. So let's jump into your expertise, which is really kind of in there with the consultants and the business owners and coaches, right? How can they effectively use video content to attract and convert their ideal clients?
That's such an amazing question. Video content has really started to blow up like around 2021, 2022. And no, I should say 2020, 2021. And without it, a lot of business owners are like, they can still get their sales, but they're starting to notice that having this online presence is super important. So the way that you can use video content is create content in a way that creates relationships with your audience. When you're creating those deep relationships with your audience, it does a couple of things. One, it gets them talking back to you. So now they know that you are a real person and now they're connecting with you. And the next thing it gets them to do is to ask them, how can you serve them? How can they work with you or move forward with you or go to the next step? That's something I did when I first started on TikTok. I used to do a lot of videos, just transition videos. And I never made my audience an offer. And one day they started reaching out to me. Hey, are you selling something? Can I work with you? So when you're serving them, when you're creating conversations, when you're building deep relationships with them, they're going to start asking you, hey, how can I work with you? How can I buy from you?
I love that. One of the things that we talk a lot about is lead to your solution, not with your solution. So when you lead with your solution, it's more of a pitch, but it's like that attraction marketing, right? When you're leading to. So I love that. What types of videos work? Look, there's the teaching video, there's the mistakes video, there's the storytelling video, right? What really works and how do you help clients kind of figure out what makes the most sense for them?
So to be honest, they all work. It just depends on what's your goal. So if your goal is to show up as the authority, then the educational content is going to be the best route to go. If your goal is for you to create deep connections and build relationship with them, then sure, go ahead with the storytelling and lifestyle content. If your goal is to get sales, then you want to do a sales video. So really, when you're putting out your content, you want to do an array of it. Like you want to do a mixture of this type of content because you don't only want to do educational, mainly because people get tired of just seeing the tips. And you don't only want to do lifestyle content or storytelling, because then people are going to think you're an influencer. As a business owner and a coach, it really is important to show up well-rounded. So you want to do a mixture of both, but it's really reliant on what is your goal. And so I typically teach all of my clients that you want to set a goal per video, right? Like, what do you want this video to do? Do you want it to get followers? Do you want it to get sales? Do you want it to get leads? Do you want it to get engagement? And based on what you choose, that's the type of content you create.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that way of thinking. So, a lot of folks have fears around creating content, specifically video, but content generally, right? Like there's either a perfectionist, or I'm not a great writer, or what if they don't like me? Talk a little bit about how these, business owners, coaches, consultants can overcome some of those fears.
Yeah, this I feel like is the most important thing when it comes to creating content online, like really having that confidence. And even for me, when I first started, I was scared. And the reason is because when you're showing up on video, even if you're showing up live, people can see you. And it's much easier if we're sending an email or just doing a blog. But having people see you, seeing your imperfections, seeing your flaws, it can be nerve-wracking. And a lot of us are afraid to embarrass ourselves. We're also afraid that someone's going to say something rude or nasty to us, right? And so in order for us to show up in a way that we could be confident, we have to remember our why. Like, why is it that we are doing this? Is it to serve people? Is it to be a blessing to others? Or is it because I'm just doing it to do it? If we don't have a strong enough why, it's going to be really difficult to show up. But once you have your why down, then you start to put out the content, and then you start to see, oh, wait, these people actually like me, and they like what it is that I'm sharing, and they actually want to work with me, which continues to motivate you to keep showing up.
So, I love this. Two things I want to just mention to that. We go out every day. We go to the grocery store, we go to networking meetings, we have wonderful conversations with people. But we're not focusing on the pimple on our face or even the spinach in our teeth, because we're not staring at ourselves.
Yep.
We typically are out there having great conversations, but yet when it comes to video, we are so hyper aware of all of those things. What I have learned is no one else is seeing the pimple.
Right.
They're not. They're engaging with you, and they're not seeing it any more than they would if you were at a networking meeting. So that's like something that I just wish people could kind of get over, because I think that it's so important. The other thing, and I had a coach tell me this, oh my gosh, I think I was in my 20s, so like lifetimes ago, that said to me, if you have a solution that can have a positive impact on your consumer, it's malpractice not to let them know about it. And so how do we do that? The content is the way that we do that. So I just wanted to share that. It's like one of my favorite forever sayings that sticks in my head.
That to me is like amazing. And if we just hold on to that, then it really does help. Another thing that I noticed, because you talked about the networking meetings, for a lot of people, when it comes to going on video, they feel like they can't control the audience response. Like if their video goes viral, it's like the whole world sees it now. And if I embarrass myself, the entire world sees it. And I think sometimes there's a fear of a lack of control. And so when it comes to being in a grocery store, going to network marketing events, I can control that. It's only but so many people in the room. But if we can release that control and really do what you just said, like if you have something that's going to transform someone's life, share it, because it really is going to be a blessing to them. I feel like that helps us to really show up on camera and be confident.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. So, we are in a world of binge watching, right? Like I get into a TV series, and like in 2 nights, we've gone through all 8 hours of it, because like it's addicting, right? And content, I follow a few folks where their content is completely addicting. And, the more I listen to them, the more they're coming up in my feed. And it's mostly for me right now around AI and sales, because that's what I'm spending. The more time I spend watching it, the more I get of it. But coaches and consultants and business owners out there, while they understand the value of binge-worthy content, they're not quite sure how to create that content that engages their audience and really drives growth opportunities for their business. So talk a little bit about, what does binge-worthy content look like from a business perspective?
Yeah, I think that's such an amazing question, especially because I love teaching it to my business owners. And typically, when I'm teaching it, I always ask this question, like, what makes you binge, right? Whenever you're thinking of a show or content, like, what makes you binge? And typically, I get a lot of people who say if it's educational content, if it's funny, if it's a certain person that I know. And these are the things that we want to pull into our content so that we can do number one thing. This is what the TV industry is actually doing to us when we're binging, is create an experience. That's what's going to get your audience to binge. If you create an experience on your page, they're going to want to come back for more. So there are different things that you can do in order to create this experience. One, the colors that are in your video. People are typically attracted to bright colors in video. So you can implement that. Good lighting, the hooks that you're using at the beginning of your video, that also attracts people. And then this one, this one's probably where people want to take notes, but doing cliffhanger endings. Oftentimes, as business owners, we don't think about that. But if you're watching like a Netflix show, what gets you to watch the next episode is a cliffhanger ending. So how can you leave your audience wanting more?
That's really great. Now, I just want to share one of the frustrating things around that is not being able to get to that next one, right? Like, I just watched part one and I can't get to part two. So do you have any recommendations on how people can help their prospect binge? Like, is there a link that you might add that takes them to the next one? Or what would you do in content, where it's like next episode is up?
So it depends on what platform. And please let me know if you can still hear me. They're actually drilling right above me now.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So it depends on what platform you're on. I'm going to use TikTok as one of those examples. TikTok actually has where you can create a playlist. And so if you create a playlist, then they can just binge that way. YouTube does the same thing. But with LinkedIn and Instagram, they do not have playlists. So what you want to do is actually tell them where to get the next video. And you can tell them, come back tomorrow for the next video if you're planning on posting it daily. Or if you want to post more than once in a day, tell them I'm posting it at this time. So I've tried those different ways. They all work. People actually do wait for it because they want to know what's going to happen next.
How do you feel about using a unique hashtag for a series so that they can click on the hashtag and then they get everything?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The unique hashtag will be awesome, especially if you're the only one using it. Because if others are using it, it makes it hard for them to find your content. So like for me, when I first started, I would just use Book of Star. And then that way people can find all my series there. Absolutely.
So I love that. And that's for all your stuff. Do you recommend, if it's a series, so Book of Star, 1 of 1, 1 of 2, 1 of 3, or something like that? So, oh no, it would have to be the same hashtag.
Yeah, it would have to be the same hashtag. That way people can find that piece of content. And you can always name your videos part 1, part 2, part 3, so that they can easily see the order of it.
That's very good advice. I love that. I do. So what role does authentic storytelling, you're a storyteller by nature, right? And so what role does storytelling play in that binge-worthy video marketing? And how can we leverage stories to build that trust and authority that you talk about?
Yeah, I really love that question. And storytelling is actually huge. A lot of people are able to digest information when you put it in storytelling form, right? And so the thing that I see with business owners that they just don't know the different types of storytelling form in order for them to get the information out, right? So I'll give you an example. There's lifestyle content that you can put out that can help you to tell stories. I have on specifically my Instagram account. I haven't released this on LinkedIn yet. But specifically on Instagram, I have a reality show, right? And this is really a behind the scenes story where I am sharing what's going on in my business, what's going on in my ministry. And people really love it. Why? Because they get to relate to me. They get to see me in a new light. I'm not just always showing up as the authority and giving tips. So really being able to tell stories in your content, it helps to build that relationship with your audience, but understanding what types of story you want to tell. There are also stories that you want to tell when you're ready to sell. You don't just want to sell to your audience because it can come off like it's salesy. But if you tell a story, especially like client testimonials, if you share that as a story, then people will be more inclined to want to work with you and buy from you.
I guess because they relate when you hear those stories. So I love that. I think that's awesome. You have given us some incredible advice today. I guess really it's my second to last question, but what question should I have asked you today that I didn't?
That's such a good question. I feel like you really covered a lot. So one question would be, and this probably is kind of different from our conversation, but what role does call to actions play when it comes to putting out your content? That one I feel like
I love that. Okay, so I'm going to ask the question. What role do calls to action play in your content? Go.
It plays the major role in your content. Oftentimes, business owners, they're putting out content and they're wondering why people aren't responding to them, why they aren't buying. And it's because you're not putting out your call to action. So earlier I shared, if you set a goal for each video, your call to action is actually what's going to let you know if you hit the goal or not, right? So let's say my goal is to get followers. Then the call to action I want to put out is for people to follow me. I've oftentimes seen business owners go, follow me, like it, share it, comment. It's too many steps and people probably won't do it because they feel overwhelmed. But if you have one set goal in mind, then you tell your audience, hit follow button so that you can get more of this experience. Or if you're ready for sales, you tell them to comment a specific word so that they can get access to this resource. So really being intentional about what's the goal so that you can know what call to action to use for your video, and then you can track your results from there.
That was great. I'm so glad we asked that last question. So really my last question is, how can folks reach out to you, get to you, and how do you help them?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for asking that. So I do have a 5-day video challenge. It's called Convert Content to Cash. And in the challenge, we do teach you how to use video marketing and binge-worthy content in order to convert your followers into customers. How to build your confidence so that you're showing up online and you don't have to feel embarrassed. You don't have to be afraid of being judged, but instead you're there to serve and be a blessing. And so you can get access to it by just going to contenttocashchallenge.com. And then to get some access to my teachings, you can go to my LinkedIn, Shamara Star Cox. You can find me there. And then on Instagram @bookastar_.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I know you've moved the dial for a lot of people today, and I'm hoping we have some of the entrepreneurs, coaches, business owners that kind of have been a little bit tentative to do some content and video content are like, okay, I'm a little more open. And you know what? And I know just from our conversation, if you have any questions around how to get started, Shamara, I'm sure that you'd be thrilled to give them some resources or thoughts around that. So make sure you reach out to her. And when you're out and about, don't forget to make your sales social.
Don't miss an episode. Visit socialsaleslink.com/podcast. Leave a review down below. Tell us what you think, what you learned, and what you want to hear from us next. Register for free resources at linkedinlibrary.com. You can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Play. Visit our website, socialsaleslink.com, for more information.